You're watching Beyond the Benchtop, a show about food ingredients. Our conversations go far beyond the lab as we dive into topics spanning from food science to market trends and everything in between.
My name is Christy. I am the R&D specialist at St. Charles Trading. So basically what that means is I'm working on all different types of blends, and I am working with different sourcing. So it's kind of going from benchtop work to commercialization, and then start to commercialize and understand, how is this feasible? How are we going to blend it? How are we going to package it? And then it is available for the market. And I have my coworker, Christian, and
Hey.
he's going to introduce himself.
I'm Christian Tolman. I'm the senior product manager here at St. Charles Trading. I also work alongside Christy in developing blends and trying to find the right ingredients to put in the blends. But
Yeah, we work very
Yeah.
closely together. A lot of the times it's me going to Christian and him wanting to escape me, coming
right.
towards him and saying what ingredients I need.
there's a lot of curveballs that
Yeah.
get thrown at you.
Every day it's me calling Christian saying something new that I need.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a real challenge, I
Yeah.
would say. But like everything here at St. Charles Trading, we love the challenge. So, I mean, I know I do. So,
I know the one nice thing is, like, at least now I know everyone's pretty busy, but the food industry is really doing, I would say, of all industries, probably the best. I know that there's definitely been like a shift with COVID because, you know, what might have been more restaurant focused is kind of now going to maybe snack industry or grocery. A lot of people are cooking at home, which can be kind of good and kind of bad. But there's definitely been a shift in the industry, but restaurant is starting to come back, that type of industry. But within that, like, different markets have been doing really well within the food industry, one of them being in particular Starch, that it's highly functional, as well as I would say it's one that's really cost effective. You know, there's not really, I know prices do kind of vary and prices increase and decrease based upon, you know, supply and demand, obviously. But one thing that is really great about this one, it's been doing really well. And I would say one thing that's nice about it is it's used in, you know, bakery, it's used in sauces, it can be used for emulsifying. Like, there's really no end to it. So with that, you know, like, the market is just continuing to do well and will probably stay doing well. I know, like, up until like 2025, they're saying that it's still going to be really high in demand. And I mean, it's something that's been started, I would say, in 1950s is kind of when it started to spark up. And then, I mean, honestly, there hasn't really been a halt. There's actually been, I would say, a line extension within starches, you know, tapioca being something that's a little newer. Potato starch is one that's starting to become really widely used. I think that might be because it's gluten-free. I mean, most starches are gluten-free. There might be traces or there might be something like that. But, you know, gluten-free has come a long way. It used to be just like literally bread that would taste like a brick, to now actually being really good. And there being a lot of different types of gluten-free starches and gluten-free flours. But yeah, that's one thing I think that's kind of really helped shift the starch market, as well as it's really used in the snack industry. And that's something that's like booming with COVID. I know I haven't stopped snacking.
right. Yeah, it's probably in just about every cracker that's out there.
Have you noticed that the market's been pretty tight, or like a lot of crazy lead times?
Yeah, so potato starch, native potato starch, most of all that comes from Europe, overseas. We do grow potatoes here, but we don't. There's not too many manufacturers here. Actually, there's just one that still makes native
Right.
potato starch here. But for the most part, everything's coming from overseas in Europe. And I think some potatoes are grown in Brazil too, possibly. I think your organic potato starch is, some of it's grown there. But then even China, they grow organic potato starch,
Yeah.
or organic potatoes, and then manufacture organic potato starch. But for the most part, if you're looking, conventional, it's just non-GMO, so that's another
Right.
plus. So no matter what, you're just going to have non-GMO potato starch, native potato starch, and you could, claim non-GMO, project verified if you have the right. We just well, we're
Right.
going through that. So.
We're working on a project right now that has to be non-GMO project verified, and it's been, I would say, a dream come true. It's been really hard just because based upon like certain products are really easy to be non-GMO project verified and some are not. So we've been struggling a little bit with that, but at least potato starch keeps it at a clean label. So that's probably one of the easiest things about it.
Oh yeah, that's
a little less complicated.
Yeah.
It's a less complicated ingredient too. Like I know that the like kind of production of it initially is difficult because it's like a super specific type of potato used, as well as like the extraction process. I'm sure is pretty complex, but I mean honestly, I would say that it's still very cost effective. What do you think?
Oh yeah, compared to, well, and plus, like a couple of years ago, there was a drought in Europe, so at the time, cost effective.
Yeah.
I mean, you rather use native cornstarch, but
Right.
even native cornstarch. I mean, just your conventional domestic. I mean, that's always been the least expensive option. But even so, fast forward to now, I mean, it's, the market has come down, but the market has started to pick back up due to the vessel issue going on, port buildups, just all around transit, trying to get from Europe to here.
Right.
You're seeing it a lot worse in China and Thailand. And now people are starting to realize that, well, if I can't get tapioca starch, then maybe I could use potato starch. And, some customers are starting to make that transition, and it depends on what the label is.
Yeah, that's true. The application, definitely.
Right. And sometimes it's just a drop and match. And depending on what the label, what the customer is labeling, they could just say, native starch, I guess. Or
that's true.
And they could pick from, corn, tapioca, or potato, and then that opens up a lot.
Yeah.
But not only that, but I've ran into circumstances that native potato starch just tastes better overall versus corn. There's some applications like dusting on like the mozzarella cheese. I know that definitely the native potato starch tastes a lot better than cornstarch.
Right.
I would say potato starch has been being used a lot more in a lot of applications, and not only now you're starting to get into a lot of the modifieds that even I'm seeing pre-gel, the instant potato starches starting to become a large sector, I guess you would say, within the potato family. Is that how you put it?
The potato ancestry.
Yeah, right. So you got the genes and all that.
Right, exactly. Do you think there's any like market in particular right now, potato-wise, where it's like booming the most?
I would say, the snack industry, but you're starting to see so like instant pre-gel potato starches. I mean, what I'm seeing on the corn side is that a lot of the domestic manufacturers are at capacity, mainly because those instant starches are going into all your retail friendly items that everyone's buying right now through the pandemic. So that's why everyone's at capacity, or or they have such long lead times now. So I would say pre-gel potato starch is starting to become a larger ingredient that's going to be used in that retail space.
Definitely.
Because, I mean, you're seeing corn hit its, max capacity.
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, let's try
next?
let's try potato.
Right.
And I've already had some opportunities and they're actually current opportunities that are working on it. And it's kind of opening it up to use pre-gel instant potato starch over native potato starch, just basically replace it.
Yeah.
And looking at it at a production standpoint, whatever the customer is doing on their end, they're looking at like it could save time when they're producing their end product, basically.
Right. I know, like, one thing too, that the reason why I feel like it's doing so well is because it is really heavily used with ready-to-eat products. And, like, for reference, ready-to-eat products, for some people that might not know, are ones that are, like, safe to eat as is. You don't have to cook them. You don't have to reheat them, or, there's no, like, kill step that the consumer is in charge of. So, like, one thing that I feel like that is great about that is the convenience factor. And so I think, like, that's why the starch is, in particular potato starch, will always be relevant, just because I think our generations are starting to get, really excited about these products that are, like, easy to use as well as convenient, because I think now we're short for time and as well as short for cooking time. So people want less of a kind of preparation to it.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's definitely kind of why it's continuing to do well, I would say, especially, like, in particular, ready-to-eat products are really common in the snack industry. Obviously, like, no one, if a snack you have to heat up, it's not a snack I want.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, just put the cracker in the oven for 10 minutes. Like, okay.
Exactly. So I think that's why it's still, like, despite everything, doing really well. And I think it's also going to continue to do well, as well as, like I said, it's used in, like, a lot of different applications. Like, I know that they did a product video on the fried chicken using potato starch to, help bread it. And one thing that's really cool about that is used in kind of, like, different meats, and well as, like, for example, I'm a vegetarian, so you can use the potato starch to bread it with, say, like, a cauliflower or tofu or whatever. Right. But it's also used in, like, confectionery, like I said, those convenient foods, those ready to eat. It's also used in dairy. I don't know if you've had any, like, customers kind of want to use it in the dairy industry, but it's definitely expanding.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I guess you'd say a modified potato starch is starting to get used more in dairy. Maybe a yogurt application. Yeah, I would say starting to see that a little bit.
I feel like tapioca is, like, a lot in the dairy, like in yogurts.
Yeah, that is too. Yeah, I think that's the,
especially too with the, like, non-dairy industry alternatives, like they're getting into the, like, oat milk yogurts, which I'm like, that sounds really delicious because I love oat milk, but it's also, like, I think it kind of defeats the purpose of yogurt. But anyway, like, I think that they usually a lot of the times have to use, like, the different types of stabilizers, but then it's hard because when you're getting into that non-dairy market, you're getting consumers that want the clean label. So they need these, like, thickening agents in it. And the native ones are obviously, like, a cleaner label, like potato, tapioca, different ones like that. And so I think, like, that's where it can be used and utilized in that industry, depending on the consumer.
Yeah, definitely pasta.
Yeah.
That's across the board.
And that's definitely starch. Like, pasta is something that's, like, I feel like generation to generation used.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't matter who you are, everyone loves pasta. And, like, at least now I'm sure they're using it in the gluten-free pasta industry as well, just because, like, it's hard to keep. I think a lot of the times whenever I've made gluten-free pasta, it just falls apart. So I'm sure, like, at least application-wise, they've been using starches to kind of help prevent that. So it'll just keep expanding. I know that even in mayos, they're starting to use starches.
Really?
Yeah. Which makes sense because like starches can be useful for emulsifying, and a mayo is basically an oil and water, water and oil emulsifying.
Yeah.
So I know that it can expand from that standpoint.
That's pretty interesting. Pet food industry.
The pet food industry, yeah, that's true. I'm not as familiar with the pet food industry, but I should be.
They love potato
given I have two
starch.
pets. They love potatoes. They love a clean label.
Yeah, every time I see my dog when I'm feeding her, she's like native potato starch. She's barking, like saying native potato
Well,
starch.
honestly, people are crazy about what goes into their pets' food. So, like, I'm not surprised that they would want a clean label. Like, my first dog, she would pretty much eat anything. It didn't matter. But my second dog is like, she's a lot pickier, but she's definitely one of those dogs that'd be like, I need the clean label. I need the potato starch.
And it needs to be non-GMO.
Yeah, it has to be project verified.
Jeez.
I know, but yeah, no, I know that industry is definitely like growing and developing, and people like I feel like are getting to be more crazy about what their pets are eating. So I'm sure that it's gonna expand in that industry as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a very interesting like market share like within the food industry, because it's almost like you're almost like the way we feed ourselves, we kind of feed our dogs like the same way now.
I know.
It's like starting to get like
more and more particular.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Versus like feeding them like actual food
right
grade, like material. It's almost like you could eat dog food too now.
What I serve to him, I eat as well. Have you noticed that we've been getting some more customers that are in like the pet food industry?
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that when like I started originally on the purchasing side, and when I was on the purchasing side, we were like working with like a dog food client, and they were wanting like all those pomaces.
Oh yeah,
and like
that.
So I know that a lot of the times like the products that we were looking for, I was like, I've never heard of this in my life.
Yeah. Oh, it's a byproduct of this product.
Exactly. But I would definitely say that like, you know, application wise, starch is probably one of the most cross-functional.
Yeah.
And so like one thing that's really great about that is, you know, when they're cross-functional, it's always going to be relevant. And it's always going to be utilized. It's always going to be used in an ingredient deck, whether it be, you know, 10% or 80% of the formula that it goes into. It's always going to be there. And I definitely think that like it's kind of extending, like every year, you know, a new starch is kind of coming and arising and becoming more popular and becoming more utilized.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I mean, St. Charles Trading, we have a ton of native potato starch. So any of you customers,
you know,
but
I think one thing is like with St. Charles, it makes sourcing a lot easier just because of it's like a food supply solution. So it's going to make, you know, your lives easier from a standpoint of being able to find these products. We can source them, and we can do a lot of the market research as well as overall research and making sure it's the product that you want and need.
Yeah.
And making lead times, you know, more readily available, because nothing's worse than when you think it's going to be 2 weeks, it turns into 2 months given everything going on. But, you know, we can help with that. And I think that we're just going to keep growing and expanding. You want to start off with modify, or you want me to?
Yeah, I could.
You probably know more than I do.
So.
Yeah. Take the ropes.
I guess explain from the start. You have your potato starch. You have your native potato starch. Now, if someone is making some, you know, they have a process. Their end product needs a little bit more texturized.
Yeah.
Or, you know, the end product's going to be frozen, and then it's going to, you know, be thawed, frozen, thawed, vice versa.
It's better for that.
Whatever the process for that end product is, you start to get into modified potato starches, well, I guess in general, modified food starches. These modified potato starches can be anywhere from a physical or a chemical modification. There's many different kinds, so it really comes back to what's the end product. So if you have something that's going into the frozen section, you might have a modified potato starch that was, for instance, it was modified using, I guess, a chemical to make it taste better when it goes in the microwave.
Yeah, because I think one thing that's hard about that industry is like the overall like sensory portion of it. Like one thing that's hard, like if you're choosing between fresh broccoli and frozen broccoli, you're gonna have to work a lot harder to make it taste good, and not only taste good but like texturally be okay. Whereas I feel like I know that the one thing that is it's expanding the starch industry in the like frozen aisles, because like you said, it's really helpful with that freeze thaw stability.
Right.
And like I cannot stand when texturally something is not correct, because consumers want something that's going to be consistent with what they believe that food is typically. Yeah. So if anything is out of the ordinary, they associate that with bad quality.
Right. Not soggy.
Not soggy. Yeah, that's like the worst word I feel like that you could use for referring to food is soggy.
Yeah.
That's like the ultimate insult.
Tasted horrible. Yeah.
Right. And like another thing that I feel like we've used modified for, like one project when I was working on that chocolate pudding project.
Oh, yeah.
The modified was really great because it's hard to understand like application wise, you know, what type of starch to utilize. And I remember like you gave me the recommendation to use that one for like a pudding, because the one thing about a pudding is there's no cook time. Like you mix it all together, you put it in the fridge, in 15 minutes it needs to be done.
Right.
So I think like the modified one, it was like a modified instant one, it was really great for that application, just because like there's no heating, there's nothing like that involved, and the preparation time is so short that it needed to be set very quickly. And so I think like I said, you know, they're application-wise used in so many different manners, and one of them that we've really been utilizing lately, I feel like, is pudding. And I know pudding is ultimately the snack industry, so that's a whole nother thing. That's another like expansion, I would say, in growth within the COVID area. Pudding wise, I feel like a lot of companies have been doing line extensions and doing like a bunch of different flavors with them as well. So once you kind of get that base formula and you understand the ratio of starch you need in there, you're pretty much set. You just have to work with flavor pairings as well as different proportions based upon whatever flavor profile you're trying to achieve. So that's one thing I feel like the modified industry is always going to stay relevant within like the pudding industry.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's also potato maltodextrins as well. Those are, I guess, kind of a part of the modified.
Have they been becoming like more popular?
Yeah. I've been seeing a lot more inquiries on them. Not sure what the highest. I think if
it goes up to 10 or not.
Yeah, I think it's 14.
Really?
For potatoes. I might be wrong. I'm still learning.
Still learning, still growing, still developing.
I think there's a 1DE, and I know that there's a 10DE, so I mean you kind of have a range there, but in other words, you're able to replace, you know, the corn maltodextrins,
right?
Say, and they have those applications. So if someone's trying to get away from corn, then it's like, well, here's potato maltodextrin. So it's a great
growing industry.
Yeah,
and I think it's hard too. Like for most people to understand the differences between potato flour and potato starch. I think a lot of people think that they like go hand in hand, and they're just application wise not at all the same.
So I guess if any of you listeners have any more questions on potato starches, you know how to reach us.
Talk to the potato king.
Yeah, talk to the potato king. You know, I could be reached, here at St. Charles Trading. Christian Toman, call in, if you're interested.
You can check the websites as well for
Yeah.
other ingredients that we can source and make happen for you.
Yeah.
Or for blending opportunities. We are now taking those as well.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching Beyond the Benchtop. Join us in the next episode to hear a salesperson's perspective.